you for joining me. Sarah from Highland Colours. It's mid-March, we're in East Anglia. It's a lovely sunny week and we're really enjoying some nice weather. It's early morning, a bit chilly in here at the moment, but it's going up to 17 degrees Celsius today, so that should be really nice. I wanted to just say, first of all, this is the swing picker that I purchased since my last video. I have purchased this used in the UK. I did a video about this yesterday and then hit the delete key on it because I realized that I need an awful lot more time experimenting with this before I talk about anything to do with it. There will be people watching who are much more up on wool picking at home. Perhaps you've used one of these, perhaps you have a box picker, perhaps you've worked industrially for decades in wool mills and you have a lot of insight that I don't have. And I think it'd be helpful, anybody who fits any of those categories, please feel free to leave your comments underneath this video because it's a learning space. I'm not getting sponsored by anybody to do anything on here, and so everything I'm doing is simply for learning, and these videos aren't even monetized, so it's just here as a learning opportunity for me and for others. So I want to talk today about the swing picker, but I'm also going to be showing you one or two other projects. If there's time, I might get outside with my camera. I'm not sure. Thursdays are a busy day for me because we head up to our church to do some help with a toddlers group on a Thursday morning. So we also go to our local flour mill where they grind mill flour in an old water mill from a local river, and the river feeds the mill through a mill pond and turns a water wheel, and that turns the big grinding stone, and they sell flour on a Thursday morning. I should have said it that way round. So I'll start with one of the projects that I'm doing at the moment. It's from Marja Carlson's book of cardigans. It's been out a few years and I just think it's a fabulous book. She's got some lovely patterns in here. She's known for her Swedish glove book, mittens, and I have that book and I've knit some of her mittens. So I really was taken with one of the designs in particular in here, and I'll show it to you, but I'll put my hand over the pattern there. It is called Sisterhood, and it's a 4-ply color work cardigan with 2 rows of Latvian braid. And I've chosen to knit mine in my own Shetland 4-ply wool that I source, comes from Shetland, and I have it in my shop. I haven't got a lot at the moment, but it's a nice yarn, and this is dyed by me with buckthorn and indigo. So it's a sort of teal green and contrast of white. So this is how far I've got so far. There's a lot of knitting in this, but it is a cropped cardigan, so not quite as much as if you were doing a longer one, obviously. It's steeked, so it's knit in the round, and because I was knitting this on a long plane trip, I put it onto circular needle here, like this, fixed circulars that I have. Sometimes I would knit something like this with long, straight, double-pointed needles with my knitting belt, but you can't do that on a plane. I will just say, actually, didn't plan to say this, but I love these Chalgu needles, the red lace ones. I've never knitted with these before, but I had a Knit Pro set. I have loads of Knit Pro ones and I really like them. and they're a good price point. But these ChiaoGoo ones, they're a cut above everything that I've used before. They're very, very good. I just like the tips on them. I can't tell you why, but they're great, and the cable is flexible, which you really want, and that join is silky smooth. Now, the Knit Pro needle that I was using on here, for some reason that came adrift, and I couldn't use it anymore, so I had to order a new one. It is more expensive. It's almost twice the price for a pair of these than the Knit Pro ones, but I do a lot of knitting, and just thought I would treat myself to those. So I've got the sleeves in. The only modification I've done on this is that I've knit these a little bit nearer to the table. I've knit these cuffs double thickness and folded them over and whip stitched them down, because I like a sort of snug cuff. Yeah. So that's that project, and hopefully can revisit that again in the future. Anybody wants to know what I'm wearing, it is a hand spun plant dyed design that originated, I think, from Alice Starmore's book, but it's not actually a pattern as such. She has a whole section in the back of her Fair Isle knitting book, which is just a classic book on how to design your own and make it for yourself to fit you. And also she gives loads of different schematic patterns for the different bands of Shetland's Fair Isle knitting. So I just mixed and matched and made up my own. So I've had this for about 12 years and it's worn very well. So anyway, I'll go back to this swing picker next. I'm going to reposition the camera slightly here. Maybe I can do that without editing the video, which always takes so much of my time. This one is not available in the UK anymore. So this is not a sales pitch for Classic Carders swing pickers, which is what this is, because you can't buy one from them, but you probably will find one secondhand in the UK if you look sometime. You know, I've seen them pop up now and then. The reason I purchased this one is because of the amount of points on it. And I had been researching Brother Drum Carder's swing picker. Now they make one called, and I've downloaded the information off the internet, they make the Brother triple picker. And I was on the point of purchasing one of these, but imports duty and VAT in the UK and the postage, I just couldn't do it. So maybe you're watching this and you're in America or Canada or another part of the world, and that situation will be different for you. So the reason that I'm now going to make comparisons between this one and the Brother is because this one you can go out and buy, and this one is quite similar. There are some differences, I think. Not having the two products in front of me, I can't exactly point those things out. So you will have to make up your own minds on that. But this is as good as I could do in the UK. And I think it will be fine for me, for my needs. I haven't got a flock of sheep, but I do have 2-ton bags outside full of Shetland fleeces that came from a local flock. So I have, at the moment, I haven't finished sorting them. I've got 35 of them so far that are good for spinning. So there's probably going to be near enough 50 by the time I'm finished sorting. Anyway, yesterday I did some little experiments and I will show that. But just to start with, there's loads of instructions with the Brother about safety for obvious reasons. This is a lethal tool which could take your fingers off, and you would not want a child anywhere near it. I'm not going to belabor that because all the other videos online that talk about swing pickers are talking about that. So yeah, you just have to read the instructions and do what they say. This one comes with 2 brackets, one each end, slightly different from the brother. They have a padlock on theirs. This one comes with these 2, and there's like a soft thing either side so that when it rocks, it just bumps against the soft foam. And those are tightened down with these nuts. Now, if I put that on there and tighten those down pretty tight, and a child came in here to play with it, they're going to have to do quite a lot of work to get this off, because those can be a little bit stiff to get off. Actually, I shouldn't even have done that. Okay, it does come off. So I think it's pretty safe, and this is in a locked workroom and I don't let the children in here. It's fine. So what do I want to say about this? Now, the first reason I purchased this one as opposed to another model that I might have had is because it has over 600 points. Points are the sort of nail things here, and I hope to be able to move the camera here in a minute and show you the actual points close up. So these points are not nails, and it's the same with the brother one. They're not nails, they are like nails. Do you know what they look like? They look like the tips of doffer pins. You know when you get a doffer pin, well, actually not that one, they're more slender than that, but if you imagine a doffer pin for a drum carder, they look like the ends of that. They're slightly longer flute on them. Now, I think one of the differences between this classic carder and the brother may be that the brother has sharpened points, so that maybe they're really sharp. It kind of reads that way. Somebody can write in and let me know, because I don't know the answer to that. These have a slightly rounded tip, but even so, you could still, if you see this here, if you put your fingers in there, if you were feeding wool in with your hand and then you bring this down, you're gonna get your fingers in there and puncture your fingers. It could be very, very nasty. So the other thing I note that is the same, I think, is that the things upon which this pivots are like ball bearing kind of bearings. Not sure what you call those, but it swings, like it just swings, you know, there's no resistance, and when you're using it, it's super easy. It can be highered and lowered. Now, yesterday when I was using this, I had a real problem with short stapled Shetland. I have some short stapled Shetland here, which is very fine and very short. At the very max, I'd say that's 1 3/4 inches in length. And I was putting it in. Now, I have this that they supply, and you push the fibre up like this with it. It just passed right through and out the other end, and it really didn't card it. So I put it through a second time, and then I put it through a third time, and I mean, the locks are not picked open. It just wasn't catching. So I lowered this here as far as I could without the tines touching each other. I lowered and lowered and lowered until I heard them go click, 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 and then I came up slightly. So they're as low as they can go, and it didn't pick. It did a little bit of picking, but I wouldn't even want to spin this anyway, like this. I haven't yet tried to put that through the drum carder to see what it would do. It's not very appealing to me. I think that wasn't a good fleece for this tool. I then tried some of this. I'll just yank a piece off. This is a Shetland as well, and it's got a longer staple of good strong staple. I'd say there's 3 inches in there, and I put this through, and this was very successful. But I will say, I noticed straight away that what you put in is what you get out. Don't think that you can buy one of these tools and that somehow they're going to get rid of the neps, they're going to get rid of all the vegetable matter. They do get rid of some of the vegetable matter, that's certainly true, and there's quite a lot of it down here from yesterday. But they don't get rid of all of it. You do still need your eyes and your hands to do this job. And I think that before I start doing serious amounts of picking in here, I'm going to be sitting in my living room in the evenings going through fleeces and just working out what I want to pick and what I don't want to pick. So there's no substitute for hand work. You can't get away from that. You can't just get a machine that's going to do it all for you. It doesn't work like that. I could do that, but my end product isn't going to look great. So if I want a great end product, I have to take care over the preparation. And this is where the money comes in for hand spinning. If you are like me and you're earning money spinning wool, you will know how hard it is to get people to understand that your product is worth what you're paying, what you're charging for it. People who don't understand the process will be comparing what they can buy in Walmart or wherever it is that people buy acrylic yarns from or eBay with your hand spun yarn. It's just there's no comparison. This is the real thing, and it takes time, and therefore it does need to be charged for, because we're not just doing this for the fun of it. If we're trying to sell it, if we're just doing it for ourselves, then that's absolutely fine, however long it takes. The other thing I want to say about Shetland is there's conflicting reports about picking Shetland, and I think it is down to the actual fleece. I've come to this conclusion going through the fleeces outside and over the years. There are fleeces where if you pull on that fibre, it just comes apart. And that's not always because it's a ewe fleece and she was in lamb, and so there's a weak portion in there, and maybe that is what it is, but there's also what we call the rise. So being an older breed, they are not bred like other sheep so that they're just shorn once a year. The Shetland would have shed its fleece naturally. So people would have plucked the wool. It's called ruing, and if you can get a rude fleece, they're usually really lovely because you don't get that rise and you don't get second cuts. So when a shearing happens, sometimes the rise has already begun and then it's shorn. So you end up with you end up with perhaps an inch of rise, and then the rest is fibre here. So if you're pulling out your locks from your Shetland and you see that weak spot, you have to ascertain whether the weak spot is because the sheep was ill or because it's the rise. And you can usually tell that. Usually if the sheep has been ill and it's just a weak staple, it will be very much a straight line across those locks. Excuse me. If it's the rise, it'll usually be within the first inch, and it might not be quite so straight. It might be slightly more jagged. I think that's quite difficult to tell sometimes, but it's usually pretty obvious if it's a rise that needs to just be pulled off. So there again, there's more labour in picking your fleece if that is the case. If you're doing something like a Romney or a Border Leicester or another fairly medium to longer staple wool, you're not probably going to have that, and I would think this would be fabulous for doing those types of fleeces. The other thing I have wanted to do is to don't have it here with me, but I do have some that I picked yesterday. I've wanted to pick black Wensleydale. I have quite a lot of black Wensleydale, and I've been teasing them open by hand before feeding them into my drum carder. And the reason I've been doing that is to add small amounts to sock yarns. So when I make up a batt for making socks, I will mix Cheviot, Southdown, Dorset, Swartballs, and a little bit of Wensleydale, because it acts like nylon in a way. I mean, people put nylon in sock yarn to make it stronger. I'm not totally sure whether it really does. Somebody will write and tell me it does, but I'm not a fan. I don't like it. So if you want 100% wool socks and no nylon, and you don't want superwash, and they're going to be much warmer if they're not superwash, this is one way forward. So that's what I do for a sock yarn. And when I have picked and carded this, it comes out buttery smooth. I'll see if I can put a little bit of video in here about that, just that one process. I will. So I've just brought the mini batt through from the drum carder, and I'm starting now to spin up a very fine lace weight yarn on the Kromsky Symphony. I really like this wheel for just speed, getting a lace weight whirl on it, and it's got 2 treadles, so it's very responsive. If I want to stop, slow down, flick something away, it's very good for that. And I just really enjoy it. I think I said that in the last video. I really enjoy this wheel. I did make a modification to the foot pedals. I put up for years with squeaking pedals. I wrote to Kromsky and said what can be done, and they sent me a new axle for the pedals to sit on, which I installed, and it actually didn't make any difference. I'm not quite sure why I was having squeaking. It didn't squeak when I first purchased it for a number of years, but then this developed. So it's possible some grease or oil got into the wooden parts that move. I'm just not sure. But what I did was took the pedals off and attached hinges to the back of each pedal, which I'll show you in a minute. And then I screwed the hinges down onto a piece of wood, and I don't have the pivot in there at all now. So they operate exactly like the treadle does for the Ashford Country Spinner. If you turn that over, you'll see underneath that the pedals are attached with hinges. So that's what we've done here. So this is spinning up just beautifully, and I'm really, really happy with this. I am going to be picking all the rest of that Wensleydale so that I can use it in sock yarns. I will show the yarn that I spun yesterday after doing that. This is just white Cheviot with this grey brown Wensleydale. So that's it there. And it just was as smooth as butter. And I have to say, the picking was pretty good. Now, if you think about this, just get the, excuse the crackle. Here I have some white Wensleydale. That is a really, really long lock there. I haven't measured it, it looks 12 inches to me. This is my black Wensleydale. So that is a long fibre, and it's adding to my sock yarn, but this is a really long fibre. I'm not sure that I want to put that through the picker. I'll try later on, but I just feel that it might tangle. If you look at this action, actually, let's do one now just to answer this question. I don't want to actually shred up anything that's super valuable to me, and those are quite nice locks. So let me just find some here. Here we are. This would be good. And actually there's a little bit of muck in there, so we'll see how much muck it gets out. So these are quite long. Not quite as long as that one I just showed you, but they're certainly twice as long as this. So you've got a good 8 to 10 inches here. I'll just pop these in. Now I haven't cleaned this out from yesterday, so you might see other colors coming out here as well. Right, if I'm pushing this up and grabbing that, what people are saying about long locks is that you have to do a long action. I'm not sure this is very conclusive. I probably need an awful lot more fibre to show this. But what I'm noticing here is it's ripping it. Yeah, I'm not happy with that, but that's probably not a great trial. Have another go with a bit more here. Take out the big lumps of vegetation and just see. How we go. Another piece of straw there. Always washed, by the way. Don't want to put greasy fleece through here. But that's something else that I'm not quite sure about, whether the grease helps keep the points from rusting. I don't know. See, this is worrying me. I'm obviously demonstrating this from the wrong angle, so don't copy what I'm doing. So I'm just holding this so you can see what's happening here. Yeah, it has opened that lock up a little bit more. That would be okay, and it hasn't ripped that one. That one didn't really make it through. So let's just have a quick look at this. It kicks it out at the other end here. And I had a box down there yesterday. So yeah, that one's ripped. Not sure about this. That's okay. That seems to be okay. Yes, I think that's actually working okay. Hasn't got all of the vegetation out. There's still quite a bit clinging on there. But those pieces, that's a little bit felted and matted there anyway. So yeah, I think that it works with that. I still wouldn't really want to try a 12-inch lock in there, I suppose. I'm not saying that it wouldn't work, but I think for a very long lock, it would be better to use combs. I cannot use combs because of my hands. They're not good enough anymore. It takes quite a bit of pulling to use combs, and probably I would be flick carding or flick combing. That might work. But I think that's good actually. I could incorporate that into a sock yarn. And it's just a bit longer than the black Wednesday yarn. This was the black that I did yesterday. And I mean, putting that through, I put it through the drum carder twice, and spinning it was just a dream. It was so easy. So that's nice. The other one that I did yesterday was a little trial of the black Wensleydale, sorry, Shetland. And it's okay. I'm not sure I picked it well enough before I put it in the picker, so to speak. I think this is a learning curve for me. I think that you have to go over your fleece quite meticulously before you put it in here. You can't just, I mean, the instructions on the Brother here say that you can pick between 6 and 10 pounds of wool per hour, and I believe it. But I don't think you can just get a fleece, wash it, bring it in here and just do it. I think you have to go over it carefully and just check what you've got. If you are incorporating all those little tiny bits of pills and stuff, when you end up with your yarn finished, you know, it might look fine, but once you start wearing it, you're going to have the yarn pilling because you've incorporated loads of little short bits. At least you could. So that's as much as I've got to say about that at the moment. This comes with clamps to clamp it down, so does the Brother. Now, I don't think there's a lot more I can say about the difference between them. The size is the same, pretty much. I measured them, the picking surface. So that was important to me. I can't make any comparison between a swing picker and a box picker because I've never used a box picker, but I have watched videos of people using them, and I know that I want to lessen the work in my life, not increase it. And I was watching people doing this, you know, and I thought, yeah, I could keep that up for a while, but if I have a serious amount of wool to get through, I think this is going to move through it much better than a box picker for me. Some people have said the box picker will do the long wools much better than this one. So that's an option maybe. You know, there's an application for all of these tools, and I can't say. Other people can write in and tell me what they think. So yeah, I can't think of anything else. The weight, 28 pounds is the weight of the Brother. I don't know what this weighs, but I would say it's probably there. I know in the box it was 40, so it's pretty heavy, which is good. It wants to be good and solid. I think the Brother one would be more of a weight actually because it's made of oak. And I know they're drum carders. I have one of the electric drum carders made of oak, and it is a beautiful finish on it, and it's a lovely feel and just a superior product. Forgive the shaking video here. I'm just hand holding this to show the hack on the bottom of my spinning wheel. These are the two pedals on the bottom, and this here is where the axle used to go in, and you can just see the hole there. And there used to be a little bridge that sat in between here, which the axle went through. So I've removed the axle, I've removed the bridge and screwed this piece of wood on. And you can just see here the hinges that we've added on here, so that these are now hinged instead of pivoting on here. And although there's a little bit of play in there, actually when I'm sitting down and spinning,
it's pretty good. It doesn't squeak and it's not really very noisy, so I'm very happy with this hack.
Hello again. I didn't get this video finished yesterday, so I've come back again to pick some blue Texel today, and I'm just going to film that and show you it going through this, and it will dump out into the bin that's down below this table. I don't know that I've got the sturdiest table. It's pretty good. It's just an IKEA table, but I think a permanent place for this would be some kind of workbench, something that's a bit sturdier. I've clamped it down now, so we'll just have a go at this blue Texel. This is just a pound of fleece. It's washed, and the locks on it are fairly good. They're not matted, but they would still need to be teased out before being carded on my electric drum carder. I've chosen to use some heavy leather gardening gloves to do this time. I'm just going to see how that works for me. So I have roughly gone through this fleece just to make sure it's what I want in here, but you may still see me picking a few pieces out. In their instruction manual for the triple picker, Brother talk about using an action with this that keeps the left arm, if you're using your left arm, stiff at the elbow. So just a very steady motion. Now that is already kicking out some lovely locks there that are all picked up and fluffy. I've got the option, of course, of putting this through twice. Some people talk about spinning straight from the picker. I could see how that could be a possibility, but I think it would depend a lot on the wool that you're putting in. If there are a lot of neps, then it might be more problematic. I have intentionally left the vegetable matter in this fleece that is embedded in it, because I want to see how much does it actually remove. I'm keeping my right hand well back, by the way. I know you can't see from that angle exactly how it looks here, but I'm being as careful as I can. I'm mixing these up. I have taken the big lumps of vegetation out, and there's a second cut that I missed the first pass, so take that out. I had to just cut the video there because I was carding, I don't know if you heard it, but there was a little click, and actually it was two of the pins rubbing together. So obviously this had shifted slightly, but I've tightened it up significantly now, so that shouldn't happen again. So off we go again. In here with the drum carder. This is a Brother drum carder, extra wide and electric, and I really do like it. So I'm just going to card this big bin of fluffed up picked blue Texel. There are still small amounts of vegetation in it. Some of it fell out in the picker, but certainly not all of it. So you'll see me just still picking by hand a little bit. But it certainly made the job a lot quicker here because I don't have to sit teasing this out by hand. I can just keep feeding it in. So I'll start this part of the video and then I'll probably speed it up. You'll see me just picking out any little neps that I see. You can't possibly get all of them, but we can get some of them. And also underneath this carder there's a shelf, and all of the dust from the fleece will go down there. It is washed, as I said before, and I wouldn't put anything through here that wasn't washed. So this is making the job a lot quicker for me than usual. So I've got my first batt out that I have put through the drum carder twice, and I can see, holding it up to the light, that there are a few pieces in here that I do not want in my yarn. I'm not too worried about that. I don't think there's so many bits in there that I can't deal with it. I'm going to do it on the Kromsky, so it'll be easy for me to flick out anything I don't want. But in conclusion, do I think that everybody who hand spins needs a picker? Probably not, but it's very hard for me to answer that because I don't know what your situation is. If you are processing a lot of fibre, it certainly speeded up this process at the drum carder because I had a box of fibre I could just put straight through here. I didn't have to worry about it, but it doesn't eliminate the need for hand-eye work first to get the fibre exactly how you want it before it goes into that picker. I think that's key to everything. I wasn't too fussy about this because it was a fairly clean fleece and I couldn't see anything too dramatically bad with the fleece before I started. But I do think that you do have still got, you've got to do that. You've got to go through the fleece first and make sure it's what you want in your picker. But I'm really happy with that. I'm looking forward to using it. This is a blue Texel and it has a little bit of crimp in it, quite a lot of crimp actually. So it's a really spongy batt, and it will make a fabulous yarn. Probably I will card this, a bit of this together with some Wensleydale that I showed yesterday, and make a sock yarn with it, because it would make a fabulous sock yarn, and it's a gorgeous color. So I'm really happy with that. So just one more thing. This drum card, I just want to say, it's been an absolute lifeline for me with my business. If people have a question over what equipment they need to have to operate a business or to do a lot of hand spinning at home, I would say this is where I would spend my money first, because I couldn't do all the things I do with my business without this. So it's a good product. I have liked using it, and Brother now do these rather nice burnishing brushes, which have longer, softer tines, I guess you call them, and you just gently touch that on the top. Now I know some of the carders come with a third roller, which is brilliant, but they didn't have those when I was buying, and I also probably couldn't fit that into my budget. So the other thing they do now is a longer doffer pin, which I like. So yeah, that ends my video. Happy spinning and happy fiber processing and whatever else you're doing, and I look forward to seeing you next time. I'm hoping to be able to show the project that I'm doing with the yarn that I spun in my previous episode, where I was just pulling out locks and spinning straight from the locks, and I'm going to be weaving a scarf on rigid heddle loom. So I'll be showing that, and hopefully my finished Felix cardigan. Bye bye.